guys, welcome to our math lesson. Let's get started by reading our learning target. I can subtract within 1,000 using place value models or drawings. So this learning target is very similar to our learning target from last week. Remember, last week we were adding. This week we are subtracting. Let's look at that word subtract since it's new learning this week. Subtract means to take one number away from another. So when we're subtracting, we're starting with the whole and we're trying to find a part, okay? The difference is what we're trying to find, the result of subtraction, okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to start out with a warm-up problem. So let's go ahead and let's look in our Ready Math journals on page 417. 417. We're going to look at question number 2. Question number 1 is talking about the word difference and wanting you to give some examples. So remember, difference is that result of that subtraction problem. We're trying to find that missing part. It's the difference between those two numbers, okay? It says, Kia draws base 10 blocks to show 230 minus 40. She says the difference is 100. Is Kia right? Explain. So what I want us to do right now is I want us to go and look. So here, let's start. Did she draw 230? Yes, she has 200s and 3 10s, which is 230. So she did draw 230, but did she take away those 40 correctly? All right, so let's start by looking at a hundreds block here. This is 100 blocks or one group of 100. These are our tens blocks. There are 10 individual blocks in there, but remember we can call that one group of 10. How many tens do we need to take away to subtract 40? We need to take away 4 groups of 10, don't we? Now, Kia took away 1, 2, 3 groups of 10, and then she took away 100. But she only needed to take away 4 groups of 10, right? So what did she do? We know that she made a mistake because she took away 1 group of 100. But what can we do to help Kia find her mistake? I want you to think about that. What can we do to help her? We can show this group of 100 as 10 groups of 10, right? Remember, that is called regrouping. Regrouping means to put together or break apart ones, tens, or hundreds. So here, we're going to regroup this one group of 100 into 10 groups of 10. All right, now she's already taken away 3 groups of 10. So how many groups of 10 do we need to take away from that group of 100 that we regrouped? We just need to take away 1 group of 10, don't we? So now she has 109 tens left over. So Kia has 190 blocks left over, not 100. So we know that Kia is wrong, and we know that she's wrong because she had to regroup that one group of 100 into 10 groups of 10 to take away that 4th group of 10, okay? All right, guys, so now let's go ahead and let's flip over to page 419. 419 in our Ready Math journals. All right, so yesterday we started practicing with subtraction using place value models or drawings, right? We built the number with the base 10 blocks and then we subtracted or took away from there, right? Because we're trying to find that missing part. We're going to read through this word problem today, and the first time that we're reading through it, we need to understand what this is asking us to do, okay? So we're not solving anything yet. We're trying to understand what this problem is asking us to do. There are 450 campers at Camp Cody. One day, 218 campers do art projects. The rest do sports. How many campers do sports that day? I want you to retell this problem in your own words. All right, so now that you've retold it in your own words, let's talk about it together. We know that there are some campers at the camp. We know that some do an art project and some do sports. Let's read again to see what it is that we need to figure out. There are 450 campers at Camp Cody. One day, 218 campers do art projects. The rest do sports. How many campers do sports that day? What do we want to figure out here? What's that missing part that we're trying to solve? How many of them do sports? That's the missing part. Now let's see what we know to help us figure out that missing part. There are 450 campers at Camp Cody. One day, 218 campers do art projects. The rest do sports. How many campers do sports that day? So what information do we know? We know how many campers there are. There are 450, and we know that 218 of them do an art project. So are there going to be more than 450 kids that do sports or less? There are going to be less. How do you know that they're going to be less? Because there are a total of 450 kids at camp, right? So if we look at a part-whole model here, our whole total number of campers is 450. We can't have more than 450 campers because that's all that are there. Part of those kids do art projects. 218 of them do art projects. The other part of them, we don't know how many, but we know that they do sports. So if we add 450 and 218 together, that's going to get us a larger total than 450. But we want to know that missing part there. So how can we solve to find that missing part? That is what you are going to work on. You are going to solve trying to find this missing part here, okay? All right, go ahead and pause the video. You can use your virtual and base 10 blocks. You can use any other models that you can think of or drawings, okay? So go ahead and I want you to solve. When you're done solving, you may unpause the video. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go on and we're going to look at some examples that we have from our book that is helping us explain through this. And then we're going to also look at some ways that other ways that we could solve it, okay? But remember, we are looking for that missing part, okay? All right, let's go ahead now and let's turn to page 420. 420. Here we are seeing a couple of different ways, some drawings and some pictures that can help us understand subtraction of three-digit numbers. Okay, so the first one we have is a drawing. We show 450 with a drawing. How many hundreds are in 450? 4 hundreds. How many tens? 5 tens. We want to take away from that 218 art projects to show the sports, right? So what they did was they took away 2 hundreds. Then they needed to take away one group of 10. And then they needed to take away 8 ones. If we look here in 450, we don't have 8 ones, do we? We only have groups of 10. So in order to get us some ones so that we can take those away, we have to regroup one group of 10 as 10 ones. So now if you look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 10 and 10 ones, which still is 50, but it's regrouped differently. So now we can take away 8 ones from that one group of 10 that was regrouped. Then we go back and count how many we have. 2 hundreds, 3 tens, and 2 ones. So we have a total of 232 left over, 232 kids that play sports, okay? Now let's look at a way that we could model this. We could keep one number whole, and we could subtract the second numbers by our hundreds, our tens, and then our ones. So they took the number 218 and they broke it up into expanded form. What's 218 in expanded form? 200 plus 10 plus 8. So now what they've done, they've started with 450 and they've taken away 200 to get a total of 250. I want to show you how we can model this on a number line. So our largest total is 450. That's our total kids that are at camp. Then we take away part of that 218. So we're taking away 200. 450 take away 200 is 250. Now we need to take away our tens. One group of 10. 250 take away one group of 10 is 240. Now we need to take away our 8 ones from 240. 240 minus our 8 ones is 232, which shows our missing part of the campers. Now we could do this the opposite way too. What if we started with the campers doing art projects, 218? What's the total number of campers? 450. So we need to find the difference or the distance between 218 and 450. So we could add up to show this. I'm going to start by making a friendly number. 218 plus 2 would be 220. I got that 2 that I needed to add because I know I need to add up to 450, okay? 220. Whoops. That wasn't a very accurate amount of adding. 220 plus 200 is 420. But I need to get to 450, so I'm going to add 30 more. 420 plus 30 is 450. Where is my missing part found here in this work? It's how much I added, right? Because I started with my total number doing art projects. I got to my total number of campers by adding my friends that played sports. So 200 plus 30 plus 2 still got me the same total of 232. Now let's look at another model. Remember, we're breaking apart the numbers into expanded form. So 450 is 400, 5 tens, 50, and 0 ones. 218 is 200 plus 10 plus 8. Now, when we're comparing ones, 0 ones and 8 ones, 0 is less than 8. Remember when we have a smaller number and we're wanting to take away a greater number, we have to regroup. So we're going to regroup one group of 10 and 450 into 10 ones. So instead of having 5 groups of 10 or 50, we now have 4 groups of 10, which is 40, and 10 ones, okay? So what they did was up here, how we regrouped our 5 tens into 4 tens and 10 ones, that's what they've done down here. Then they went back and said 400 minus 200 is 200, 40 minus 10 is 30, 10 minus 8 is 2. So then they had the expanded form of 200 plus 30 plus 2, which is a total of 232. So there are many ways that we can solve this. We can subtract back many different ways, or remember, we can choose to add up to find that missing part. So let's go back to our question and answer that question, okay? We want to answer how many campers do sports that day. How many campers do sports that day, guys? Yes, 232. We're going to go ahead and we're going to flip over to the next page, page 421, to answer that question. How many campers do sports? 232. Remember, we need to put what our unit. 232 campers do sports. Okay? Let's go back to number 1. It's saying look at the picture it. So that picture it is where we quickly drew the sketch on page 420. It says, why do you need to regroup 110 as 10 ones? I want you to go ahead and pause the video and answer that question. When you're done, you may unpause. All right, so why did we need to regroup 110 as 10 ones? We needed to regroup because we had to take away 8 ones. There were no ones in 450, so we had to make some ones. So we had to make ones from 450 to subtract 8. Okay? All right, so remember we had to get some ones from 450 so that we could subtract those 8 ones. And we did not have any ones in 450, so we had to make some by regrouping that 10. All right, now let's look at number 3. Look at the first modellet. How is the way the problem is solved like the way shown in the second modellet? How is it different? So we're going back to page number 420. We're looking at the first modellet and the second modellet. We're talking about how those two are the same and how they are different. So remember, in the first one, we kept 450 whole and we took away 218 in parts. In the second modellet, we broke up our hundreds, our tens, and our ones. We broke that apart into expanded form and subtracted that way. So how is it the same? How are those two modelets the same? In both of those, what did we do? We started with the same total, didn't we? We started with 450. For both of them, we started with 450, didn't we? In both of them, we took away 218 by hundreds, tens, and ones. Okay? So even though we did some things differently, we started with 450 in both, and we subtracted 218 by the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. What was different about those two models on page 420? What was different about those? Well, it was different because in the first one, we kept 450 whole. But in the second one, we broke 450 apart into its hundreds, tens, and ones. Okay? Is there anything else that you noticed that might have been different? Okay, now it's your turn to reflect. Now that you have had a chance to go through and look at some different ways, what way will you choose to solve these subtraction problems today? I want you to go ahead and reflect. How would you solve 3-digit number subtraction yourself? All right, so that answer is going to be different for everybody because we all think about math differently and do it different ways. Now let's go ahead and let's flip over to page 422. We're going to do some examples together, and that'll help you be able to solve independently. So let's go ahead and let's look at number 5. Jim has 572 stamps. Leo has 347 stamps. How many more stamps does Jim have than Leo? Okay, so let's see what we need to figure out. We need to figure out how many more stamps that Jim has than Leo. So let's look at a part whole model here. What's our whole total number of stamps? Jim has the largest total, doesn't he? 572. Leo has a smaller number than that, so that's a part of it. Leo has 347 stamps, but we want to know the difference. How many more stamps is 572 than 347? So we need to find this missing part. This will show us the difference in 572 and 374. What we're going to do is we are going to use the base 10 blocks to help us. We're going to subtract 572, we're going to subtract 572 minus 347, okay? So let's go ahead now and let's look at our base 10 blocks. All right, let me get us a clean slate started. All right, so we're going to make our first number, our total, 572. How many hundreds are in 572? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many tens? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And how many ones? 2. 1, 2. All right, now I'm going to organize those nicely for us so that we can see 500, 7 tens, and 2 ones. Now we need to take away 347. So we need to take away 3 hundreds. 1, 2, 3 hundreds. We need to take away 4 tens. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we need to take away 7 ones. But I only have 2 ones. So let's compare 2 and 7. Which one is greater, 2 or 7? 7 is greater, so 2 is less than 7. So if I have a smaller number and I need to take away a larger number, what do I need to do? I need to regroup. So I'm going to take one of these groups of 10 and I'm going to regroup it into 10 ones. Now can I take away 7 ones from the number I did have, after I took away my hundreds and my tens, I had 232 left. So do I still have 232 here? Yes, I just regrouped my one group of 10 into 10 ones so that I can now take away 7 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Now this shows how many I have left. 2 hundreds, 2 tens, and 4 ones. So the missing part of 272 and 347 is the total of 224. All right, let's go back and make sure that we have answered that question. How many more stamps does Jim have than Leo? Jim has 224 more stamps. Now, I could have done what I just did with the base 10 blocks in a drawing like they did on page 420. So you could also draw it if you did not want to use those virtual base 10 blocks, okay?